Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 26th of February, comes to you from London. And the dollar index just starting to fall again. We're just seeing that creeping through back into bearish position on the cloud chart. So we are just now back into bearish mode in the short term, and of course the medium and long term charts are still bearish. So that's interesting, and we're seeing the euro dollar, of course, then turning bullish on that dollar weakness. So it looks like we bounced on support here on the point and figure chart, and we're now just coming through the clouds. So looks like we'll see euro strength this week. Japanese yen, we're seeing the dollar just weakening here as well. And against sterling, sterling is rising quite strongly on that weaker dollar as well, so 141 now. Looking at the euro rate, we're seeing sterling rising here as well, and against the Swiss franc also rising. A little bit of sentiment on interest rate rises in the press this weekend. So we are just seeing Bank of England officials saying that they see rates rising faster, so that's obviously been priced into sterling this morning, and we're seeing here the Aussie dollar sterling strengthening there as well. Bitcoin back below $10,000 this morning. Not a big change right now, but we are seeing a lot of downside targets here on the short-term chart, and we're similarly seeing here. So it's bearish below the cloud at the moment. We turned bearish a few days ago, and that just sets us up for looking more bearish still. We see here these downside targets. 2%, 4%, 7%, and as much as 10%. And of course, 10% on Bitcoin, that can easily happen in a day. Looking at the S&P 500 index, we saw a bit of a flurry late on Friday. The market just strengthening towards the end. It hasn't quite managed to make a new sort of multi-week high there, but it is at least nudging that resistance level. So the recovery continues, and we're seeing the Nasdaq was up quite strongly as well. Of course, a lot of tech stocks being the leading factor, and that was in fact a new sort of high since the fall away. So we are now just nudging that point where we're starting to look at that new high again. And of course, if the Nasdaq can make new highs above the sell-off, then that is highly significant, and that it puts the recovery mode well in train. The Dow also just kicking higher on Friday, and the Russell 2000 index also just kicking higher. So we are just seeing here some strength there as well. The US futures, the S&P 500 is up a third of a percent this morning, and the Nasdaq E-mini is up also just under 0.2%, but again pushing higher. So it does look like US markets will open a bit higher. The FTSE is up this morning, starting to just turn bullish on the short-term chart, but really nowhere near the recovery that we've seen in the US market. We've sort of bounced and just barely recovered. And the same with the FTSE 250. We're just not seeing that recovery kicking through. The DAX is just ticking above the short-term cloud as well, and the CAC 40 in Paris looking a little bit stronger actually, and pushing a bit higher there too. The Japanese market we see here this morning is just coming back through the cloud on the short term. This may end up being a temporary breach on the cloud if the lagging line can keep going. We'll look back at that in one day and say, yeah, that was finding support. So at least we are recovering above the cloud there. But of course, we do need to push higher to be sure of that. And the Hang Seng is looking bullish above the cloud. It definitely found support on the medium-term cloud. And the Chinese local market was up over 1% overnight and starting to look like quite a strong recovery here as well. The Indian market has been looking a bit weak of late, but we're up nearly 1% overnight, so it's starting to show some signs of recovery. And the Australian market also looking quite good. Looks like it did really find support on the medium-term cloud here, and looking bullish as well. Brent crude is sitting at $67, so we did see quite a jump on Friday, and we are just in that bullish frame of mind, of course, and we are now just bullish on all three time frames. Targets still sitting into the 70s, so whether we can get there, that will be interesting. And WTI also just pushing higher. We've got an upside target there of 66.89. and that's about 5%, and another one of 68, so that's 7%. So with two upside targets, it does give us a little bit of hope that we will push higher there. US Nat Gas also jumped on Friday. Having been in the doldrums, we're now at $2.66. So that's put us in a short-term bullish mode, but of course, still a bit of a concern that we did make lower lows here. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Just looking at some of the softs here, we see cocoa up 2.2%, looking very strong here on the short term, and the medium term also pushing higher. Gold, of course, is looking now bullish again. Big rise there on Friday, and again this morning we're just pushing here. Friday was flat actually, but this morning we're pushing much higher, putting us back into bullish mode. This 1360 level is where we need to break, but we're back into short-term bullish mode on gold. We've got a target there of 1349, so it'll be interesting to see if we can push higher there as well. And looking at silver, similar picture there. US 10-year notes falling back a little bit, back into about $2.86. We were as high as 2.95%, so 286 is quite a big push back on the yield, but it's still looking very bullish on the medium and short term, long term. So the short term has just turned a little bit bearish there. We had a target to 284, given at 291, and that's where we're pushing to. Looking at Apple. Apple was up quite strongly on Friday, up 1.7%. So the recovery really pushing forward there, nearly nudging back to new highs. So that's looking pretty good. Amazon also just sitting at that $1,500 level. So really pushing higher there. It wasn't a long time ago that Amazon was breaking $1,000. So really just has continued to move strongly. Google, or Alphabet, as we know it now, is looking pretty strong too. Facebook had a good day on Friday, up some 2.4%, and now back into the 180s. So really finding support there, and short term looking bullish again. And Microsoft up 2.5%. So we did see a lot of the tech majors on Friday in the US just really pushing higher again. This recovery now looking well underway. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.